It's what I got to do. So if I got to endure that pain, I got to do it, baby. Right, let's go. Let's go.
I see everything that has a soul. I try to treat every single thing with respect.
But you're appropriating indigenous culture to justify arbitrarily harming.
I'm appreciating indigenous culture.
Yeah, right. You might be appreciating the culture, but what about the individuals who get exploited and killed? Like, there are so many cultures that do cultural practices that are very exploitative or harmful to an individual. What about that individual? Fuck me, I'm pissed already. We're 10 seconds in, now I'm pissed. Get shot! No, oh man.
Hey Q, nice to meet you. My name's Ed, and today I'm at the University of Dallas with a banner that says, "Why aren't you vegan yet?" You've been listening to a conversation I've just been having.
Yes.
And it seems like you have some questions or some ideas or thoughts. So let me know what you think.
So my first question for you is, what is your opinion on the native tribes such as the Inuit who live up in Alaska who don't...
Can I just say the irony, right? Of talking about, like, how this person respects all life and everything like that, and you're probably going to go on to do all this, like, be in touch with the earth, locally sourced murder, and then there's a Dr. Pepper right there. Bruh. Oh, you can't see. Dr. Pepper. Let's go. Okay, anyway. Rocks have... Please don't tell me they fucking say rocks have souls, or I will... No. Oh, God. Fuck. Right, let's go. 22 minutes of... Okay.
Don't have easy access to these fresh produce that you're wanting them to eat, and instead rely on the animals they hunt.
Yeah, well, the issue of what we do to animals is an issue of necessity. This question of veganism comes down to the options and choices that we have. So there are obviously people in the world who don't have the availability or the access to be plant-based or to be vegan, who are maybe in tribes and in indigenous communities where they don't have the access that you and I have, where we live with the means that we have. And so as a consequence of that, the morality of that situation is very different, because they hunt animals and eat animals out of necessity. But the point of me being here with the banner about why aren't you vegan yet is to draw on the fact that it's about you and I and the situation that we have and the means that we have, which is why it becomes a moral issue for us.
I mean, you talk about, us like we are not part of these indigenous tribes. I mean, these indigenous tribes, yes, they live, out...
Are you really gonna say, like, different cultures, they're very different. Like, you go to a different country and the world looks very different. Like, we're not like part of the precisely same thing with the precisely same means. Is that really going to be the argument that's made? Oh God, help. No.
Remote away from, civilization,
No.
but
Right, no.
many of them, they don't see veganism as, like, they don't want veganism because they...
Well, what about you?
I don't want to be vegan.
And why don't you want to be vegan?
Because...
Right, that's what it boils down to, okay? That is what, like, this is where the argument should have ended. I don't want to, babes. That's it. Now we're just going to hear a hot load of bullshit for the next 10 minutes of them speaking. That's literally just, tell the truth. I don't want to. All right, just, right, go.
One, I have I'm a neurotic, which means I'm very sensitive to certain things, so I already am, picky about what I eat. And so trying to find, like, a substitute for the nutrients that I need is very risky. So eating meat that I know...
I don't know if that's necessarily the case. Like, I know a lot of people in the same sort of situation. It sounds like excusitarian nonsense.
Meat that I understand, it helps me that way. However, with these indigenous tribes, because you have to understand, veganism is very much a white colonized thought. It very much is.
Well, people say that, but then also...
Yeah, people say that, and then they freaking, like, completely erase all of the fucking history and, like, all the different cultures who have embraced and pushed forward the animal rights concept. They're trying to paint it like it's this negative thing. Just admit you don't want to. You don't want to. You know that it's like, I mean, you probably know at the very least that you ought to be doing so, but you decide not to. So you just have to be like, oh no, it's this horrible white colonization thing. Even though the roots of veganism, like animal rights, I'm pretty sure it was in the East before the West. Yeah, this is struggle right here. Like, genuinely, like, just nerves and saying whatever. Like, it should have just been an honest conversation of, I don't want to. Probably be better for me to do so, but I don't want to. You know? At least it's honest. It's still shit, but it is honest.
People say that when you look at the roots of non-harming animals for diets, it's deep-rooted in places like Hindu cultures and Jainist cultures. And so the idea of abstaining from eating animals is very much deep-rooted in kind of like Buddhist, Hindu and Jainist cultures, and not necessarily in a white colonialist process, at least.
Yes, but like in Hinduism, they don't eat cows. They believe cows are sacred, but they eat other meats.
Well, not many.
Yeah, but there's a lot of, though it's not this kind of widespread thing, there's a lot of, smaller influences within different cultures that do actually consider animal rights. Not just because it's not widespread doesn't suddenly mean that, suddenly it's this white Western thing, because it's not widespread in the white Western countries either. It's still this fringe thing. It's still small, but it is everywhere. And to even act like, it's not elsewhere, you won't find it, it's just white people doing it. Hello? Just completely, just glossing over other, in doing, the very thing that they accuse veganism of being, they erase all of this. It's just tragic. It's truly tragic.
Don't, and historically many haven't as well. So I'm just saying that it's not strictly true that this idea of non-harm to animals is a strictly white colonialist thought. So I don't know if that holds up historically speaking.
Yeah, historically speaking, it's not. But this sudden boom of veganism is historically colonial.
No. What do you mean by colonial in this context then?
I mean colonial as in the white colonizers, as in the Europeans coming colonizing half the world. I mean the Americans colonizing the West. There's a recent surge.
But veganism is more popular in non-Western countries. What do you mean? It's quite popular in the UK, so that's one West country. But pretty sure places like India, I'm pretty sure Israel, are some of the leading places for veganism.
In white liberals who believe they're doing good and who believe such as you and I'm not saying vegan is bad.
What's wrong with, why is that even mentioned, white liberals doing what they believe is good, and then they go and say, well, I don't even believe veganism's bad. So I'm not saying what the problem is. It just seems like you're trying to use the kind of language that you use in order to tar it with this negative brush. But
bad. Veganism is not bad. If you want to be vegan, be vegan.
Yeah, cool.
But when it comes to pressuring other people...
Yeah, precisely. We've just utilized social media. Social media, we're using it to spread ideas, and it's very popular in the West, the internet. So it's seen a boom there.
Who don't want this and who have different beliefs. For instance, are you aware of the view of Cosmocentricism?
No, you explain it to me.
So Cosmocentricism is a worldwide view believed by many of its indigenous tribes in which everything is equal to each other. Me, you, the trees, the grass, the water, the rocks, the animals are all equal to each other. And animals hear us and they understand
the rocks. So you're genuinely telling me that you would apply this logic that if there were a house fire and there were a rock in a room and a human, you would genuinely be kind of I don't know who I should pick. Who should I save? Please, do you actually believe this to yourself? I don't think you do. I think there wouldn't be a moment of thought about that rock, because I think that they aren't a being, they aren't something to be morally considered. I think you're just bullshitting in order to try and make a case to justify the fact that you seemingly just don't want to be vegan. That, I think it is as simple as that.
Does. Sure. So with many people, such as the, not the Inuit tribe, there's another tribe in Alaska, starts with a K, I can't remember at the moment. They believe that the earth was made by the raven. Their god, to put it in terms, is a raven.
Yeah.
But they hunt elk and they hunt moose.
Yeah.
But they don't just hunt them, they respect the animal. They take everything from the animal and they thank the animal.
Yeah.
And they thank the animal in several...
I get this, I do. But if we are to really think about this, if I don't want to be killed and someone uses every part of my body, I don't think that's very respectful of me. That was my life. You know what I mean? That was mine. To take everything from me That's not respectful. Why is it suddenly respectful to do that to an individual who has feathers or fur? I don't know. Not computing with me.
Ways. They don't talk about hunting moose. They just say, I'm going to go out. Because they know the moose hears them.
Granted, they're doing much better than what, the Western world does, and, just decides to completely commodify and confine, millions upon, billions of animals. So they're doing a better job, but I still don't understand how that can be respectful.
They say, I'm going to go hunt moose. The moose hears
But thank you, Jamie. Salad.
that, and says, they are not worthy to have me.
Oh, okay.
They are not worthy to eat me. Yeah. And so it hides.
Because they presumably don't want to be killed if they're going to be alerted to that. But the point that I'm making is that I'm not in those areas of the world talking to indigenous people in those areas. I'm talking to people here. And whilst we may make the argument that when we look at the rise of veganism as a popular cultural thing, it's kind of emerging from places in Europe, Australia, and the US. Actually, when you look at the growth rates of veganism, in America, one of the biggest demographics in terms of adopting veganism are African Americans. And so to make the claim that it's a strictly white colonialist thing doesn't hold up, especially as white vegans aren't going to indigenous communities in Alaska and aren't trying to impose that on them. I'm here in Dallas talking to people like yourself.
Not physically, but through social media, there has been a push of people saying, Inuit tribes who hunt beluga whales, which are not endangered in any way, people are saying that's wrong, you can't do that, and they say that is our only source of nutrients.
But at the same time, what?
No, the one that I see more than anything is Faroe. That is the one that gets all the airtime because it's just part of a cultural practice. It's Icelandic. Where is it? In Faroe. The Faroe Islands are Icelandic, aren't they? And they can avoid doing so. People are really against that. And then when they've been criticised, they've been like, to be fair though, people will kill all these chickens and we've got loads of flesh from these whales because they're so big. And they don't need to. And there's a lot of pushback even within the island. And then you have people who do want to do it. So actually, I think I don't see personally, and I have been involved in the animal rights movement for 7 years, I don't see very much of indigenous culture being criticised. I see more for example, Faroe. And as far as I'm aware, they don't need to do that. Hunt beluga for nutrients, many nutrients, 10 nutrients.
What can be easy to do, especially when we have views about a certain group of people, is we can take people from that group who kind of maybe portray views that could be considered extremist or views that could be considered impractical, and we can use those to try and almost, caricature the whole movement itself. And so I'm not going to disagree that there are certain vegans who will make that claim, but by and large, most vegans, including myself, have a more of a nuanced understanding that there are people in the world who have a different relationship based on the environment that they live in, and hence I'm not going to make the claim that people who are hunting beluga...
Yeah, that's the thing. They made the point to be like, well, they're not even endangered. I don't know why being endangered means that your life, matters. That's an extrinsic thing. They're valuable in and of themselves as an individual, not to, their species or anything like this. They're a sentient being. They have a subjective experience of the world that is theirs and theirs alone. That should be as simple as that. I don't get it. Squirrel? Where's squirrel? Was there a squirrel? Oh my god, squirrel.
Vegans who will make that claim, but by and large, most vegans, including myself...
What a lad. Look! I didn't even see them. Usually the squirrels get me. Oh, man.
Have a more of a nuanced understanding that there are people in the world who have a different relationship based on the environment that they live in, and hence I'm not going to make the claim that people who are hunting belugas out of necessity to survive should be held to the same moral standard that you and I can with the choices that we have. See, that's what's important.
You say moral standard because you're saying that them hunting beluga is morally wrong.
No, I'm saying in a situation of necessity, it's different. Like with humans. If I said, shooting a human...
Well, it's still wrong even in necessity, but it's more understandable why that would happen.
Human is morally wrong. It is. But if you have to shoot a human out of necessity, then it becomes morally justified. So I can say harming an animal is morally wrong, but if you have to harm the animal to survive, then it can become justified. So issues of morality are always nuanced based on the circumstances, but by and large, the general rule should be, if we can avoid causing unnecessary harm to someone, morally speaking, we should try to pursue that option. What do you think about that?
I mean, I fully agree. And so my question is just, why are you Why are you here asking these people why we're not vegan? What is your reason for that?
Because it's a thing that we don't often think about. It's an idea that most of us don't kind of like consider when we're buying food. And most of us in society are against animals being unnecessarily harmed. And so morally speaking, we already agree that reducing suffering for animals is morally preferable. But when we go into a supermarket or onto an ordering app or whatever and we buy food, we don't really think about the process of what we're supporting because it's culturally normalized. We've been raised with that. And so the purpose of me being here isn't with this kind of naive opinion that everyone's going to sit down, agree with me and be like, hey, Ed, I'm going to be vegan now. But it's to try and like maybe ask questions and talk about topics that people maybe haven't considered and to try and get maybe a deeper reflection on those values and ideas because it is a moral issue and morally we do agree with reducing suffering. It's just that we haven't always thought about the suffering that occurs for our food that we consume.
Okay, so I know because I was raised in the Texas education system. Yeah. I'm sure many people here were.
Oh, I'm sure.
We were all taught high school, like health class or whatever, how fast food was made, and they show us like the slaughter camps and all of that of the animals and whatnot. And they try to traumatize us and whatnot. And they're like, don't eat fast food. That's why you only eat, real meat and whatever. Right, but then.
Well, that's ridiculous because then the animals are still killed in the same. Like, what? Oh yeah, to solve this problem, don't eat fast food, even though there's vegan fast food and like the animal's still going to be exploited and killed. Great solution to the problem there, dude. Like,
and they don't say that
nice education
that
system.
Exact same process happens for real meat. So one, that's a whole issue, but you have the plant-based produce, right? You have who is growing this plant-based produce? It's immigrants who are undocumented, who are being paid cents a day.
Gonna conveniently forget about animals needing to be fed as well. Those crops. And this is like not a problem within animal rights. It's a human rights issue with humans being animals, but obviously we compartmentalize them quite differently because of the way in which we interact with humans. It's a bit different. So don't see how this is a problem with veganism. I don't know how you still can't be vegan and see this as an issue that you can work towards as well. I don't know.
They are being exploited on their own reason. Yeah. Yes, animals are being exploited and they're being harmed, but so are humans. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Am I interrupting? Am I interrupting? Am I interrupting? Am I interrupting?
No, not at all, darling. No. Yeah, like Notorious. Who made the Dr. Pepper? There's like, please. There's a Dr. Pepper sat right by them.
Saying that what's morally overall better to have plant-based. Yeah. That's also like it's a gray area because you're also furthering harm on these people.
So we have a very imperfect system, not just agriculturally speaking, but just generally speaking. Yeah. There is a huge amount of exploitation that happens in all different systems, and that's unfortunately a thing that needs to be challenged. So I will never say that veganism is perfect, that plant-based production is perfect. It isn't. What it is it's a reduction of harm. And the reason it's a reduction of harm is because everything you just described in terms of what's happening to humans happens in the animal farming industries as well. It's the same people growing the feed for the animals. It's the same people working in the factory farms and undocumented migrants. And it's those people working in slaughterhouses. And slaughterhouse work has been shown to increase rates of PTSD, mental health problems, suicide, drug and alcohol abuse. So the situation of animal farming also causes intense human suffering, and in many ways the same, and also with an add-on of what happens in a slaughterhouse. So it's a reduction of suffering, but it doesn't mean we should stop there. We should challenge that, and what we need is a plant-based food system that takes out the animal suffering and challenges that suffering of humans as well to create a fairer system for everyone.
I agree. Have you considered going about it perhaps
challenges that suffering of humans?
There we are. Oh god. Oh, it beggars belief, doesn't it? Look at that. What's that?
As well to create a fairer system for everyone.
I agree. Have you considered going about it perhaps the other way, saying we need to focus on humans first. We need to focus on. They'll be much more likely to help us in reducing the harming of animals. They'd be able to help us, say, to go on strike against these slaughter facilities. It's all about.
against the slaughter facilities. So how are we going to get the animal products that you want if the animals aren't slaughtered? What do you mean? I don't know why you can't care about both, Mecha Rocks. I don't know what happens when people start talking about veganism, but for some reason, multitasking is a concept that just goes out the window. You can't care about, like, anything else other than the other animals, apparently. I don't know either, Jonty. It hurts my brain. Let's go.
Time, though, is the argument I'd make. But we can tackle this animal exploitation and the human animal exploitation at the same time and create a system which is growing plants which is best for animals and takes into consideration the rights these humans deserve so that we create a fairer system for everyone.
In a perfect world, we can go about it at the same time. This is not a perfect world, and that it would be an incredibly difficult thing to do. And so...
But it's incredibly difficult, whatever, so we might...
But there's, like, loads of people. It's not just, like, one thing that one person does. I don't get it. Sorry, I'm eating grapes and raspberries. Bloody lovely, that.
As well try to do that. And the first thing we can do is abstain from the animal products. And then with our time, if this is something, like, you yourself clearly care about...
Notorious Pam, no, you don't volunteer to help autistic kids or people who are homeless. No, you don't, because you're an animal rights person. So clearly you can't do these other things. It's not possible. Sorry, it completely interrupts with my worldview. No, sorry, vegans don't care about other humans. Like, they don't care about humans. No, sorry. No, I'm not having it. I'm afraid. No.
For a righteous and just reason, we can take out the animals and then campaign to create accountability for farmers to make sure that they're treating humans right. Of course, it's going to be a challenge, but it's a challenge whichever route we take. So let's take the route that gets us to where we want to be for the benefit of everyone.
I mean, either way, you're going for the benefit of everyone. That way is just your worldview.
No, because how does it benefit animals to confine them and literally kill them? Like, I can't do it. I'm gonna have a fucking breakdown. These people are just, well, your way, like, you know, both ways benefit all. But yeah, I'm trying to make a case to defend, you know, billions of humans literally eating the bodies and secretions of other sentient beings. In my worldview as well, that benefits all. Because somehow that's... No.
You're wanting to help the animals first and then humans second.
We can do both at the same time.
Yes,
Both at the same time.
but
No.
you are deliberately going animals
Hurt me.
first, slaughterhouses, then to the agricultural plants. It doesn't matter if you are also helping humans in that slaughterhouses, your main focus is those animals, is it not?
My main focus is to create a better agricultural system for everyone, and veganism is that, because...
Up to 2.7 trillion victims every single year. They're sentient beings. If it were 2.7 trillion dogs, would this person have so much of a problem and be like, you can't have all those animals for... Indoctrination is a hell of a drug. Don't do indoctrination, kids. You know what I mean?
Veganism isn't just about consuming plants, it's about creating a system that reduces exploitation, and that's not just to non-human animals. So as a vegan, I wouldn't be, if we had a situation where it was just plant-based agriculture, but everything you're describing still exists, well, as vegans, I would hope, and I certainly would as a vegan, think, well, this isn't where we want to be. So I'm not saying that it's about just animals, I'm saying it's about humans as well, but we shouldn't just say, hey, let's try and help the humans in slaughterhouses, but not help the animals in slaughterhouses, when we can help animals and humans in slaughterhouses by not paying for it, and then help those workers.
Get plant-based products from those type of companies? Do you know?
How are you gonna say that with the Dr. Pepper right next to you? I'm dying inside. I'm literally dying inside. Someone take me to the... No, I'm fucked.
Those companies that do that, are you avoiding that, or are you still buying from those companies?
Oh man.
And say honestly that I don't pay for that to happen, because I can't honestly say that. But that doesn't mean that I agree with it. And if I had the choice in front of me in a supermarket to say, hey, this comes from here and this comes from here, if I had that choice, I would buy that. But we don't have that choice yet because the supply chains are so, you know, ubiquitously bad.
Yeah,
so we need to challenge that as well.
Meat-based products. There are companies that do that, but there are also companies that don't. There are organically grown.
But they still cause harm.
Yeah, but like you could have got like a freaking own brand from a company, but you decide to get that. Like, so why is this even coming up as an excuse against veganism? Like, what?
They still end up in the same slaughterhouses. They're still killed in the same way.
No. I'm talking about those that are like very local, very.
Yeah, I know.
They kill animals again in a humane way. Again, the idea is that.
But what does humane mean?
Oh,
when we say humane,
It's the same bullshit. Guys, if you stab your neighbour, something magically happens where it's not wrong. Because it happened locally to you. Like, I cannot believe I swallowed that pill when I was little. Do you know what I mean? Like, what does the locality of your victim have to do with whether or not it's right or wrong? That just tells me you don't give a shit about the individual animal, and it's more about the environment, though.
You kill them in a humane way where they don't feel pain, in a halal way, right? They don't feel pain where they are cooked a certain way.
Wait, don't feel pain in a halal way? People hypocritically have a problem with halal because the throat gets slit before stunning. People think, oh, well, if we stun them before we slit their throats, that's fine. But are you literally going to say right now that in the halal way, they don't feel pain? They suffer in every way. Like, even if they're bolt gunned in the head quickly, they're not these robots who have no, like, understanding of what's going on. None of it's good. It will all lead to their life being taken away from them. You wouldn't want any of those options for yourself. We talk about, oh, well, we gas individuals. You know, that's humane. Yeah, because being gassed to death would just be, like, so pain-free and fine. But, like, to say halal is, like, you don't know clearly. Like, have you watched an animal's throat be slit? You really gonna say, yeah, well, like, we could hang a dog upside down, or we could put them in this restraint and we'll slit their throat, and that will be pain-free. Will it? You sure? I think that would fucking hurt. It would really hurt.
Right? They don't have any added stuff, any non...
What is halal? How do they kill animals halal?
They kill them without pain.
How? Describe the process.
I could not tell you specifically because I am not Muslim.
But you can tell me that...
Wait, if you're not Muslim, you can't tell people what the process is. See, it's what I assumed. They don't actually know what happens. They don't know. They haven't seen. Well, let me just tell you, their throat gets slit, and that would fucking suck. I think that you don't need to be part of any religious group to know that an individual having their throat slit would not be good for them. It's, yeah.
That they die without pain, but you can't tell me how they're killed.
Yes, because I have Muslim friends, and I ask them, I'm like, what does halal mean? They say, basically, they're killed in a very specific way where they, as less pain as possible.
Can I tell you how they're killed? They have their throats cut, but they're not rendered unconscious. So they're conscious and they have their throats cut.
Is that how they're killed in the halal way?
Yeah. Kosher and halal, that's what it means.
But, okay, so, again, that's all about anatomy.
Do you think that sounds compassionate?
What? It's more compassionate than other ways of killing them.
It is, but is it more compassionate than not killing them?
They're gonna...
I mean, like, these ways are critiqued very inconsistently, even more so for the fact that they aren't stunned before this happens. So, arguably, it's more of a painful experience. But being stunned before you're killed is still a negative experience for that individual. Like, there's lack of knowledge here. There's lack of knowledge paired with indoctrination, and this is what that looks like. It just looks like a mess. It just looks really bad. It looks like somebody calling for these things to happen. Bruh.
The base of the problem is, if you have respect for the animal, right?
Can you respectfully cut their throat for an unnecessary reason?
That's what indigenous people do. Indigenous people hunt in a respectful way.
But people who buy meat from slaughterhouses when they don't have to.
People from slaughterhouses, no. But again, if you go from organically sourced.
So you, where do you think these organically, locally sourced? Where do you think they go? They go to a slaughterhouse, ding dong. Bruh, what? How is that respectful? Just say you don't value other animals intrinsically and then move on.
Small, very small companies, their meat is expensive because they are so small, but...
They're still killed in the same way, though. They may be raised slightly different, but they're still killed in the same way. The standards still apply. Halal, kosher, or even just the USDA, humane regulations, it's the same in all slaughterhouses.
Yeah, but Yeah, so they're raised in the same way. They still are able to have a better life. They're able to go out in the pastures and they're able to live life as a cow.
But they're still killed in a slaughterhouse.
But you can kill them. I'm saying you can kill them in the cosmocentric worldview. You can kill them in a respectful way where you thank the animal. Where you
so if someone thanked you before they killed you, you'd think, oh yeah, I'm being respected right now. No, you'd be like, leave me alone, you freak. That's what you'd do. What's their opinion on serial killers? Who, you know, cannibalize their victims, boil up their bones. Do they see respect in that? You know, people who are like, oh, I just had to kill her because I just really loved her so much, and, you know, I wanted a piece of her with me forever. Like, does she think that's respectful? Because I think that's pretty fucked up. And I think it's pretty fucked up when we do it to other animals as well.
That help the animal? Does us thanking the animal
in a
help the fact...
worldview, yes, it does.
But would it not be better just to eat the plants?
No, because
morally there's no difference.
The world has to remain balanced. So if
there's no balance in animal farming.
They're fucked. This whole balanced shit, right? Do you think it'd be it would be more balanced really if we ate like you could just say whatever you want to say. It'd be more balanced to include every single animal you possibly can into your diet. Like, you know, eat your dog, look after one. I don't know what that fucking means. Yeah, you can't thank someone for giving you something that they didn't give you. You're actively, like, just apply this to, like, anything else. Like, a few things have just popped into my head I don't even want to fucking mention because they're just sadistic and horrible. But imagine being like, well, I respectfully thanked them for the thing they gave me, and being like, but dude, they didn't give it to you, you took it from them.
It destroys balance, it destroys the environment. We're artificially breeding animals into existence.
This is the thing, right? Like, we should be calling for, we can establish that a plant-based diet would be more sustainable. If we really wanted to kind of make this case for, like, considering our role in how we affect other, you know, indigenous cultures and other areas of the world, then we would be looking, the plant-based diet should be the thing that this person's calling for. We should be, you know, this whole, like, when we're looking at deforestation, for example, like in the Brazilian rainforests where there are indigenous cultures being, like, desecrated and having their land taken away from them. It's like, well, okay, animal agriculture, time and time again, responsible for this. So we should be looking at a way where we're like, okay, we can have our agriculture, and we don't include other sentient beings, and we don't use something that's so resource intensive. We're looking for more sustainable methods. Well, what would be a sustainable method more than anything, especially when we've got such a high population? How can we implement this across the globe? Plant-based eating.
We're selectively breeding them, giving them hormones, and then we're killing them in slaughterhouses. But we're talking about slaughterhouses right now.
I'm not talking about slaughterhouses. I'm talking about locally grown ranches,
which
right?
still go to the same slaughterhouses.
They do not go to the same slaughterhouses, my dude.
They do.
Or they bring people to them to kill them, or they bring the slaughterhouse to them. Why do you think it matters? Like, if I'm murdered on a beach out in Greece, that's still wrong to whether or not I've actually just, like, been freaking chained up in a factory farm and then sent off to a slaughterhouse. These two things are still bad. Why did they think that this is a point in their favour? I don't know.
They may be raised differently, but they're killed in the same ways. They're killed in the same methods with the same techniques. They're killed in the same ways,
but they do not go
in the same way.
To slaughterhouses.
Why does that make any difference, Ding Dong? You're frustrating me now.
They stay at the ranch. These are their own meat suppliers. They grow and kill their own meat.
They may have local slaughterhouses, but it doesn't matter. They're killed in the exact same way. They may not go to some of the...
Can you please ask them if it would suddenly be better for you to kill your neighbour versus going to Australia and killing someone? I'd like to know. I'd like to know. I'm very curious. Oh,
big industrial Smithfield slaughterhouses, but they're still killed in the same way. And for that individual animal, the experience that they endure is the same because the method and the action is still the same.
The action is still the same, but it's, again, least pain as possible, so they're cutting the throat at the right place.
I don't think there is a right place to cut the throat. I don't know about you, lads. I feel like any part of the throat you shouldn't be cutting. Do you know what I mean? Like, the right place to cut.
Where the cow, honestly, just falls unconscious. They don't feel
they bleed out. And are we saying that is it compassionate to unnecessarily kill someone else? Is that compassionate?
Someone else? No, it's an animal.
But we're animals too.
We are animals too, but
what do you think an animal is, Ding Dong? No, not someone. What are they then? If they're killed outside the building, it's fine. If they're killed inside the building, suddenly it's wrong. No, it's all about you just trying to get these kind of little points and be like, oh yes, well now it's suddenly fine. No, when fundamentally I don't think you'd be okay with whether or not I stabbed a dog on the street or stabbed a dog in a factory farm. I don't think it would make any difference. It would still be fucked up. Yeah, what part of the throat is the right place? I'd like to know, please. I just, because apparently if you do it like a freaking doctor incision, with the precision of a freaking steady hand, oh, you can get away with it. That's fine then. That's absolutely fine.
We are different from animals in that we have conscious thought.
So do they. They're conscious. And if they're not a someone, what are they? A something?
Hang on. I thought, right, if the whole rock sentience shit's going to be brought up, let's just remember how they did say, like, they did try to diminish the experience of another animal.
They are something that, I'm trying to explain the cosmos, like...
I love you talking about respect and then completely objectifying other sentient beings. I love that for you. That's really good. I like that. Yeah, that's really, really good. Please do that again. Please tell me how respectful you are.
With cosmocentric worldview and with animism, right? Again, something indigenous people, most indigenous tribes...
None of these things you adopt, do you? The whole question is, why aren't you vegan yet? What these things do you believe? You know what I mean? This person is simply wrong. All herd animals know when it is slaughter time. They feel the second that the blood scent hits the air, they panic and lanes and beg for... Yeah, that's why they have to be prodded into place. And this is why loads of slaughterhouse workers end up with injuries, because they are flailing and fleeing, trying desperately to leave the situation. They are aware of what's happening. Though cognitive dissonance...
When you didn't know what halal was minutes before, but also know that they cut the throat just right.
Yeah, good point. There's so many points here that are just beyond, just beyond.
Believe in. There is a difference, right? You have to understand that the indigenous people, they were doing this before us.
But I'm not so interested in indigenous people. I'm not interested in people in those scenarios. I'm just talking about the everyday person.
It doesn't have to be in their scenarios. I myself am trying to follow the cosmocentric worldview, and so I only try to buy...
What, with your Dr. Pepper? Oh, go on.
Meat products that were sourcely grown.
What about that Dr. Pepper in your, I'm sorry.
Raised and slaughtered here, right? So I know that they living their full life, they were not stuck in 2x2 pens or whatever. But
you're really telling me you only locally source? And again, they are still being killed. They're still being exploited.
They were still respected, right?
But they don't live their full life. They're killed, cows can live to 20, 25, they're killed at 12 to 24 months. And respect is a mutual thing. When you sat down with me, we've had a respectful conversation because we've listened, we've engaged with each other. We haven't shouted over each other, we haven't cursed, we haven't been nasty, and that's respectful because it's a mutual. I'm trying to understand your thoughts and your feelings, and I feel like you're reciprocating and doing the same for me. But what we do to animals isn't respectful because it's a non-consensual thing. We force them into these environments for something that we want.
Not necessarily non-consensual. Again, with the cosmocentric worldview, the moose will gladly give himself up to the hunter.
But does the cow gladly walk into the slaughterhouse and present their throat?
No.
The moose gladly gives themselves to a hunter? They're a prey animal. They don't give themselves to anyone. What? Oh my god.
Technically, no. But a cow is different from a moose in that they are domestic.
Sure,
right?
But they're still sentient, they still have feelings. To domesticate just means that we've kind of given them certain traits to make them more passive so we can farm them, but they're still inherently the sentient, conscious beings, just like the moose and the elks and other animals in the wild.
Yes, but it's hard to explain if I don't have my notes with me, but there is that nuanced difference that many indigenous tribes have followed. You have, for instance, the Comanche tribes, right, who hunted buffalo or the bison. They hunted them, some could argue, in an inhumane way. They would chase them off cliffs. They would kill them. They would feel harm.
So, wait, what? Don't lie about it, okay? We may look at certain practices and cultures and think they do things in a more kind of way that's respectful of the environment, but let's not lie and say, oh yeah, well, the animals gladly give themselves to these individuals. They really, it's so respectful, it's so wonderful. It's like, no, individuals are still having their lives taken away from them. Let's not gloss over that. There's no notes you can read that are going to make that okay. Yeah, some cows are killed as babies. Like,
but they still thanked the animal. They still took everything from that animal. If we took everything from the cow and put
exactly, they took everything from them. Like, just genuinely think about it. Think of any other context where you take something from an individual. That's not the same as someone giving something to you. Like, not at all.
Use instead of just taking the meat and throwing the rest away.
We don't. We boil the bones down, turn it into gelatin. We do use everything. We use blood and make it.
Yeah, we use blood. We use their fur, leucistin. This isn't respectful. Do you think an individual cares how the body's going to be used afterwards? No, they just don't want to be killed.
Different things. So we do use everything from the animal. But that issue of respect, again, I think you can do something more respectfully when you have to, which these indigenous tribes, they have to. But for most people in society, they're paying for animals to be put into a slaughterhouse when they don't have to. And these things are being done to these animals, and it's not consensual. They don't willfully walk there. So it's an unnecessary action that doesn't need to take place by the virtue of it being unnecessary. And we have an option that reduces.
I agree, Michael. This person, they're not meeting my family anytime soon.
This is that harm that we can cause, and that's the primary argument I'm trying to make, that we have a choice. We have choice, and when people have choice, that's when these issues become moral issues.
Would it be different if I were to say grow my own chickens and kill my own chickens and eat them?
No, because we're still killing them. We're still taking their life from them when we don't have to. So whilst that system may be preferable for the chickens up until the point that they're killed, that point still has to arrive. And that point is when it becomes an immoral thing, because you're needlessly taking their life from them.
I'm not needlessly taking their life. I gotta eat.
But you don't have to eat.
Yeah, you don't. Oh my god.
Them.
You can eat other foods.
That can be argued.
Yeah,
right?
that can be. Yeah,
no,
come on.
For most people it can't be argued. That's the point. For most people it can't be, and that's the point I'm making. For most people, they don't have to cut the throat of the chicken. They could just eat something else instead.
Like you.
Yeah, okay, if you don't want to eat meat, don't eat meat, all right? That's the fair thing. But you try...
No, this isn't about not wanting to. There's a lot of things people want to do, right, that would be harmful or rights violations to somebody else. It can't just be down to, well, if you don't want to, then that's fine. Or if you want to avoid the rights violations, then feel free. No.
Trying to... you say broaden the horizons of these people, but really you're wanting to make them feel guilty for consuming these meat products.
No, I'm not trying to make anyone feel guilty. I'm just having a conversation where I'm asking people why they're not vegan and trying to establish their views.
Them admitting that they're feeling quite guilty right now. Yeah.
On it. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I'm just trying to ask questions and respond to your questions that are authentic to my feelings and in a way that potentially allows us to reach some commonality, which I think is important here. So I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, but interestingly, guilt is an emotion which comes from the sense of morals. If we feel guilty about something, it comes from the sense of there's something to feel guilty about. If I pick up a rock and throw the rock on the floor, I don't feel guilty. If I pick up a piglet and throw a piglet on the floor, I do, because I recognize that action is causing harm, and that's why I feel guilty. So guilt can often be a powerful emotion in helping us determine how we view something when it comes to that being right or wrong.
Last thought before I go to class. You were talking about picking up the rock, throwing it on the ground.
Oh no.
Indigenous people see that rock as a soul. It has a soul.
Do you?
Right?
Do you?
And so they also would not pick up a rock and throw it on the ground.
Even if they were to have a soul, right? In a burning building situation, would you save a rock over a human? Would you save a rock over a chicken? Or do you understand that we morally consider these sentient beings, they are subjects? I don't, you're using their experiences and their beliefs, but do you believe that? And I mean, it may well be the case that in a burning building, you'd think, oh, I don't know whether to pick up this rock and save them or save the life of another sentient being. I don't know which one. Like, maybe that is the case, but I'm really doubtful.
I'm not saying that I would do that, but I'm just saying that I would feel less guilty because I recognize that action causes less harm. And the feeling of guilt that you have comes from the concept that there's a notion of harm being inflicted.
So what I would encourage you to do is to look into cosmocentric worldview and to look into how these indigenous people have lived their lives thousands of years before we have come to them, and recognize how they were able to hunt. But
okay, so in a burning building situation, I think I'd be screwed if this person had to come save my life and there were a rock, in my path. Maybe they really would think, oh no, I don't know, sorry, there's this rock here, or there's this plant in the, there's a pot plant and needs saving.
A way that's a community, they bring the community together in a way that honors the animal, in a way that even with the cow, the domestic cow, they do it in a way that honors the animal. Even if they're being killed or not, the animal is giving up its life for us.
No, they are not giving up their life. This is very worrying. Please apply this to other contexts. You can't just say an individual who didn't willingly, like, that they had something taken from them, and then, like, post hoc be like, no, they gave it to me. No, they didn't. No, they did not. They didn't give you the life. That was taken from them. How could they communicate to you, yeah, I'm giving you my life? How does that even happen? So dangerous. Yes, very dangerous thinking.
We are thankful for that animal for giving us its nutrients.
And I'm sure they're so happy that you're thankful now that they're dead, you know? That must be really good for them. They must really appreciate, like, I'm sorry, I don't care how thankful someone is for my body after they kill me and then use it. I don't want to be killed by somebody. Do you know what I mean?
Indigenous people that have to hunt to survive.
Yeah, it's about as entitled as it gets. It really is.
I have no bones with. I'm accepting that people have to do that to live. So, like I've said, and just want to say right again at the end, the situation you're describing is not the situation I'm here to oppose.
No.
I'm asking people at this university in Dallas why they are vegan.
Yeah,
because
but
they're
that's
not an indigenous person in Alaska who has to hunt to survive.
Yeah, but
they're a person who is paying for an animal to be unnecessarily killed.
It's not about, you know, what I was describing then can be here at UTD Dallas. That's what I personally try to do. I see everything that has a soul. I try to treat every single thing with respect.
But you're appropriating indigenous culture to
I'm
justify
not
arbitrarily
indigenous culture.
harming.
I'm appreciating indigenous culture.
But going into a supermarket and buying a piece of steak is nothing, has nothing to do with that, because they're going through a whole process that's predicated on their survival, whereas us, we're not doing that. So going into a supermarket and buying a steak.
I really wish he'd asked her about like the burning building situation. I'd really like to know, like, where the value is placed.
Is nothing like what they're doing. The only thing is an animal has died, but in that situation it's justified, but in this situation it isn't.
What was that
I gotta
face?
get plus.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Q. Have a great day.
That was so.
But in this situation it isn't.
Wait. That face.
I gotta get plus.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Q. Have a great day.
Oh, come on. Oh, painful. Wow. I'm glad that's over.